everybody. Today we are elated to announce that we have Dr. Lakshmi Jagannathan with us, the Chief Executive Officer at Derbi Foundation, Mentor of Change, Atal Tinkering Labs, Charter Member, TIE Bangalore. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for coming to us today.
My pleasure.
Thank you, ma'am. So I would like to start with the first question. What is the mission and vision of Derbi Foundation?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. See, broadly, if you, I think vision of Derbi probably is to make India a totally very, very healthier country and healthier country leveraging technology innovations of startups. I think broadly, this would be the vision of Derbi itself. Because Derbi is a healthcare focused incubator where we are supporting innovations and entrepreneurs working on technology solutions in healthcare. So incubator like us, I think the ideal vision is to see how these solutions can be leveraged in the community to build a very strong and healthy Atmanirbhar India. Yeah, the mission is, I think mission is what we are trying to do now to reach towards a vision. So what we are doing now, I think we are working with startups or innovators who have from an idea and funneling it through our various programs, supporting them with all possible options, starting from helping them build a solution, validate the solution, get clinical expertise, clinical and regulatory certification, try out their solution, see how their business can be increased so that they can also become big and scale up. I think all this is a part of our mission, what we are doing now, so that we are able to work with startups, help them build solutions and become big.
Thank you, ma'am. So could you walk us through some of the initiatives and programs, especially in the sphere of entrepreneurship that Derbi undertakes?
Sure. See, as I said, the cycle of entrepreneurship or cycle of startups, there are three distinct phases. One is ideation stage. Somebody comes with an idea saying, I have an idea. I want to solve this particular problem. How can I leverage technology to build a solution? That is the typical ideation phase. So startups or innovators, startups means we say, yeah, they must be having a registered company. They have a formal legal entity which is in place. It could also be innovators. See, today, interestingly, also what is happening is there are buckets of innovators. For example, there are many clinicians, doctors are also innovators, right? Who are trying to leverage technology to build healthcare solution. So, moment we say ideation phase, we have what is called PACE, which is a pre-incubation program. That is somebody at an ideation stage wants to validate their idea, understand who's the customer, who's the end user, how the solution has to be, what are his needs. And essentially the whole 6 months program, what we call is a PACE, which is a customer discovery program, where we work with startups, work with innovators, help them understand who's their customer, for whom are they trying to solve this problem, how is the disease being currently diagnosed today, what are the other methodologies which are being used, who are the other stakeholders. So they understand the whole gamut of the placing the solution in the right setting in the real life scenario, and then come back and keep tweaking their inputs to the solution as such, and then build a solution. Now, the reason, we have run about 6 cohorts of this customer discovery program or the PACE program. See, when we started, I think the first 2 cohorts were more generic. Last 3-4 cohorts have been specifically for healthcare. And the reason we are able to do this well is because Derbi is a part of Dayanand Sagar Institutions, which is an academic institution based out of Bangalore, close to 5 decades old institution, has multifacets, starting from engineering to arts to nursing to multiple domains. In healthcare, I would say we are probably the only incubator in the country to have the entire ecosystem of health around it. Starting from a medical school to nursing to dental to pharmacy to biotechnology, all departments are there. And it's a fertile ground for startups to build a solution, validate it, talk to clinicians as they're building it, fine-tuning it, all that. Now, this customer discovery program, what I was telling you, is essentially where all the innovators get an immersion into the relevant department. For example, say somebody is trying to build a solution for, say, to be used by dentists. So then it is ideal to have a dentistry department next door where they can go talk to the dentists, find out how are they going to use the solution, where is it going to be deployed, what are the features they need, and keep fine-tuning the solution, maybe up to building a demonstratable proof of concept is where the customer discovery program comes up. And one thing we've also realized is, see, Derby essentially works or supports startups who are mature individuals and not essentially students. So when these people come, most of them have a huge opportunity cost of giving up a good job to do full time of entrepreneurship. So what we realized is if somebody has to build on an idea, he or she needs money, right? So for a pre-incubation program, up to 10 lakhs, we give them a grant, either through a DST supported program, either through a Nidhi Prayas or a Nidhi EIR fellowship of up to 3.6 lakhs in a year, or a METI program. So any early stage funding essentially comes into this bucket. So the startups are able to ideate and build a proof of concept before the program gets over. So this is the first part. Now, out of, see, we have seen in our experience, roughly about 20 to 25% of this converts to a very good company which is eligible for incubation program downstream, right? So we have a second program offering, which is called an incubation program. Now, incubation program is for startups, healthcare startups who have a registered company, very early stage company. They are ready to get traction of what to do, how the business model work. Should it be a B2B, B2C, or a D2C? Various aspects of the business model. Validation of the solution itself. They may have a very, very crude proof of concept. Now, this has to be tested, calibrated in the real setting. They'll have to demonstrate it to patients or discuss this with doctors or implement in some hospitals, some nursing homes, get a feedback, keep fine tuning. So this iteration is a continuous process which happens over a period of time. So this 2 years program is what is called as an incubation program, which we call it as a Gallop. Now, this has two pipelines of entry. One is startups who are a part of our phase who do well, get into Gallop, or multiple startups from the ecosystem who keep applying to us, saying, can I get incubated? Can I get supported at Derby? So what we do is we keep the applications open for Gallop throughout the year. As soon as there are 4 or 5 applications which we receive, immediately our team contact the startup, tell them this is what the Gallop can offer. Do you want to be a part of our incubation program? Do you want to get supported? And there's a screening committee which selects these startups. Once these startups are onboarded, we work with them to prepare their next 2 years of action plan. Be it business, be it technology, be it solution, whom should they get connected? Based on the action plan, we also define specific milestones, what they should be doing, what they should be achieving every quarter, and identify mentors who work very closely with these startups. Typically, there would be one anchor mentor and a couple of other mentors, be it regulatory, be it certification, or be it some aspect of technology which they want to be fine-tuned. So they work with them and see that they get a success. Another part, what we do is we are also funded by a couple of seed-funded programs from the government. We are supported by DST, Nidhi Seed Support System, and also Startup India Seed Fund. So these two seed funds are available only for our incubatees, which is for a part of a Gallop program. So whenever these people have good traction, we collect data from them, do our due diligence, and then present them to our investment committee. Investment committee, again, is a bunch of all external experts of the ecosystem who go through. If they feel these startups should be invested upon, then they invest up to about 40 lakhs, we invest in the startups. We have supported about close to 55 startups as a part of our incubation program. The third program we do is called the acceleration program. Typically, the name accelerate is people who already have traction, they have early revenue, they're doing well, they want to grow big. Maybe either look at expanding into new geographies or increasing the business revenue. So that is where we typically accelerate them. Recently, also, we concluded one acceleration cohort for Government of Karnataka, where we accelerated 15 women-led startups in Karnataka, all healthcare startups, right? So again, this is a customized program. So what we do is we work with each of these startups in the beginning, understand where they are, and see what support can be really given for them in the 6 months of the program. Then there are some common sessions like regulatory, certification, all that is very, very few common. 90% of this program is customized. There is an anchor mentor here who meets them every month, reviews what has been their progress, whether they've been the other mentors, and it's a continuous process. Even for our acceleration program, deserving startups, they also invest with our seed fund. Now, there are two programs, as I said, the incubation program, that is the Gallop, and the acceleration program called Emerge is where we invest with our seed fund. We also work with about 15 to 16 investors, angel investors, then VC firms who also co-invest along with us. So there are instances, I think out of the 25 startups we have invested, close to about 16 startups have raised either a co-investment or a follow-on funding. Because we understand that healthcare ecosystem is a very, very small ecosystem, and healthcare as a product has a long gestation period. So for a startup to really do well, we need investors with the right bandwidth to understand and also support them. So about 16 of them have raised a follow-on funding also. Yeah.
So, ma'am, you talked about such interesting initiatives that Derby does. Now, I would like to ask you, how do you measure impact when it comes to these initiatives and how these startups are growing?
Okay, sure. So I think the moment we say impact, it automatically translates to impact on the ground, right? So first is the impact is what is the impact we are trying to create through the startups themselves. There are multi-pronged way of measuring the impact of the startup. One is in terms of the IPs they generate, in terms of patents they file. Because India as a country, we still have a long way to go in terms of the number of patents which have to be filed, right? So patent is one. Other one is in terms of the revenue they generate, how much of revenue they are generated, because this also adds to the country's exchequer. Third most important metric as far as the startup is concerned is in terms of the employment generated. How many people the startup is able to employ, so that the one startup founder whom we have supported should be able to at least give employment for about 25, 30 people. That itself is a very good metric for improving the overall economic scenario in the country. Right? The fourth metric, as far as startup is also concerned, is in terms of the women empowerment. How many women are there as a part of the team? Whether women are also there as co-founders, women are also there as decision makers, right? I think this again is a very important metric as far as a startup is concerned. Then the other metric we also consider as far as startup is concerned is how much of funds they've raised. For example, Derby has put about 20 lakhs. Is there any other external investor who's also invested? So that overall this brings together improvement for the economy at large. That is one part. Most of this is related to economic development as far as the startup is concerned. When we are looking at the impact on the ground, right? There are, especially in healthcare, there are specifics which we are very, very, very important. In terms of, for example, number one is how many devices have been deployed in the community, right? How many lives have been touched through this technology that the startups have developed? How many lives has this startup saved? For example, interesting story, we have a startup who has a solution for monitoring maternal health of tribal women. So they have a smart armlet which the tribal women wear, and throughout the period of pregnancy, so the would-be mother's health is tracked. So in such situations, we're not talking only about the mother, it is also the child which is going to be born and the whole family at large, right? So lives impacted is a very, very important metric to measure, especially in health, right? Another important metric you can also see is where are these solutions being deployed? In such geographies, what is the access to doctors or clinicians that people have? What is the access to number of clinicians per square kilometers of the geography it is there? So these are all some of the important metrics which we measure.
Thank you, ma'am. That was extremely comprehensive. So, ma'am, now I will come to COVID-19.
Yeah.
So, how has the occurrence of COVID-19 impacted the work that Derby Foundation carries out? And how do you think has the organization worked on these challenges to overcome it?
Sure. Yeah, thank you for the question. In fact, I would take both of them together in terms of what were the challenges, how did we come back? I think 2020 March is where, 2008, late 2019, where COVID started emerging, and 2020 was the first lockdown, if I remember right? Fortunately for us, I think it coincided with our, I wouldn't say pivot, with our deeper focus into healthcare. See, 2016, when Derbi started, we were a AI IoT incubator, right? Because those were the buzzwords and those are the technologies in which a lot of startups are working. And 2019, we launched our first accelerator program supported by DST, Department of Science and Technology, Government of India. When we wanted to launch this accelerator, we said, when we say accelerator, we felt it should be very, very sector specific because we cannot do across all sectors. Till then, we were supporting startups in multiple sectors. I think 2019, July, August, when we launched this accelerator program, we said we will do healthcare. Two reasons. One is a lot of startups in healthcare have big struggle as compared to somebody who's doing another vertical. For example, some startup who's building an e-commerce startup or a edtech startups, challenges are not so huge as compared to a healthcare startup. Primarily because of two reasons. One is when you do a healthcare startup, the gestation cycle is very, very long. Especially, for example, if you're building a medical device, it will automatically take about 6 to 8 years for you to reach the market, right? Number one. Number two, for early stage healthcare startups, there is very, very less access to clinicians, access to doctors, access to hospitals to work with as you're building and fine tuning the solution. So we told the government of India that we will do a healthcare incubator only in 2018 when we launched. I think that also brought in a focus. So when 2020 March, I still remember very clearly, when the lockdown was announced, the program was on. I think then we took it on very well because we productively used the lockdown period to really orient ourselves and do a clear call out message to the ecosystem saying Derbi will do more of healthcare. So what we did was we did a series of events every week where we brought in a lot of healthcare experts and did a lot of webinars. I think if you remember, those were the early days when people started adopting to Zoom and all the virtual programs. So we did a lot every week. There used to be 150, 200 people. There were people who were talking about building healthcare solutions, regulatory, raising money, opportunities, problems. I think those 7, 8 week series of programs we did also brought in a lot of traction for us on healthcare and good branding for us also ecosystem on what we could do in healthcare. So that is one part. I think another big challenge we also had was pre-COVID days, incubation meant physical presence only in the incubator. So startups had to come to the incubator, work with it. Virtual was never thought of, both by the incubator and also by the funding agencies, also by startups, right? I think post-COVID now, we also support startups from across the country. Most of it is virtual. We support startups from Delhi to Pune to all over the country. There are startups who we support. So virtual has also become a reality today because people are able to understand better, manage the whole thing virtually also. That could help. Yeah, and third thing, most important thing is, I think pre-COVID, the biggest USP for all incubators, including ours, was a huge co-working space where we have, right? Where people come, want to physically meet, work and all that. Now, post-COVID, I think we are now seeing, we continue having the physical space. We are seeing how this could be a value add. So now what we are doing is instead of strengthening only the office space, we are strengthening more of our lab space where we now have a component bank. Startup have access to components, access to equipment, access to work hands-on, be it mechanical, be it electronics. So lab, see, whether you are virtual or whatever, you have to have come to a lab to use, right? So we are saying how the office space along with a very good lab could be a value add. There again, we are partnering with big names. For example, Moser Electronics is a huge international organization which supports electronic startups, electronic innovators, right? Now we have a Moser Derbi Innovation Lab at Derbi Foundation, through which we are now creating a platform where startups can innovate, build prototype, components they can borrow from the component bank. They do not have to invest. So these are all small initiatives we have taken to overcome the, I would say, COVID crisis.
So, ma'am, this brings me to my last question.
Yeah.
You talked about how Derby changed and also adapted to the circumstances around it as an organization. So I think my next question is very related to that.
Yeah.
What would you say is the vision for Derby in the next 5 years?
Great. I think COVID has opened up everybody's eyes and ears to the importance of health, number one, and how as Indians we are so adapting to technology, right? I think probably India is the only country thanks to the able leadership of our Prime Minister, the vaccination drive was so successful and powered by a huge COVID platform, which is technology driven, right? So, one understanding for us, clear message is that if technology can be used, even the common man can easily adopt, right? So, starting from, I would say, consumption of medicines to supply chain and medications, there are a whole lot of problems. India, if you see the pyramid of India, I think the cream of the people are only at the top 5%. We have a broad pyramid, and 75 to 80% of the people have very less access to healthcare. I think the vision of Derby largely would be if can we deliver affordable healthcare to the people, to citizens at the bottom of the pyramid by leveraging technology and building innovative solutions, be it starting from devices, point of care, diagnostics, hospital management system, use technology everywhere possible so that the common man on the ground becomes more healthier. This is the vision.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for giving us the time. It was an honor to speak to you.
Thank you.